The sun was setting behind the glass towers of the city when Victoria Hale, the elegant billionaire CEO of Hale Motors, stood by the hood of her custom-made luxury car. The sleek machine had stalled in the middle of her company's test track, and a dozen of her high-paid engineers had already failed to bring it back to life. Frustrated but amused, she crossed her arms and smirked. "If anyone can fix this engine, I'll marry them," she said half-jokingly, her voice laced with sarcasm. The engineers chuckled nervously, knowing it was impossible. But then, from the far edge of the track, a humble man in oil-stained overalls stepped forward. He wasn't one of her elite staff. He was the local mechanic who swept floors and occasionally tuned the old trucks used by her drivers. His name was Daniel, a quiet widower who raised his young daughter on his own. "Mind if I take a look?" he asked softly. The CEO raised an eyebrow. "You?" "My engineers couldn't figure it out." He just gave a calm shrug and leaned under the hood. Within minutes, his hands moved with precision, adjusting the fuel line, tightening a loose valve, listening carefully as though the car were speaking to him. The others stared in disbelief as the engine roared back to life, purring smoother than ever. Victoria's smirk vanished. Her joking promise echoed in her mind. "If you fix this engine, I'll marry you." Daniel wiped his hands on a rag, smiling humbly. "There you go, ma'am. Just needed a little heart put back in it." For the first time in years, the billionaire CEO was speechless. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't laughing. Because in that moment, watching the humble mechanic walk away, she realized her own heart had just roared back to life. To Victoria Hale, the iron-willed CEO of Hale Motors, was known across the world for her brilliance in business and her no-nonsense attitude. She had built her billion-dollar empire from the ground up, outsmarting competitors twice her age and leaving a trail of rivals in the dust. But, for all her intelligence, there was one thing she lacked: warmth. Her staff admired her, but they also feared her. One late afternoon, during a private test of Hale Motors' newest prototype, a hybrid supercar, meant to revolutionize the industry, the impossible happened. The sleek, silver engine coughed, sputtered, and died right in front of her entire engineering team. Victoria laughed bitterly. "Millions of dollars in research, and my car can't even start. What do I even pay you all for?" Her staff shifted, uncomfortably. No one dared speak. She sighed, rolling her eyes. "Fine, whoever can fix this thing right here, right now, I'll marry them." The words were meant as a joke, a jab to shame her team into trying harder. Her board members laughed nervously, but one man at the edge of the crowd didn't laugh. Daniel Carter. He wasn't one of her executives, or one of the glamorous engineers flown in from overseas. He was a humble Mechanica man who worked in the dusty service garage on the edge of town. Hale Motors had subcontracted him for basic repairs on their delivery fleet. Quiet, soft-spoken, and always covered in oil stains, he barely spoke to anyone except when necessary. Yet something in Victoria's words stirred him. Slowly, he stepped forward. "May I try?" Daniel asked. The engineers smirked. A few even scoffed. "This isn't some old pickup truck," one sneered. But Victoria tilted her head, curious. "All right, Mr. Mechanic, show me what you've got." Daniel approached the car, placing his hands on the hood as if he were listening to a heartbeat. He didn't rush, he didn't boast, he simply listened. Within minutes, he identified the problem, a tiny misalignment in the timing chain, something so small it had been overlooked by every single overconfident engineer. With a few swift adjustments, his hands moving with calm precision, he leaned back and nodded. "Try it now," he said. Victoria turned the key. The engine roared back to life, smooth, strong, flawless. The crowd gasped. The smug laughter vanished. Daniel simply smiled, wiping his hands on a rag. "Sometimes, the machine doesn't just need fixing," he said softly. "It needs someone to care." Victoria froze. His words hit her harder than she expected. She was so used to power games, deals, and rivals. But this man, this mechanic, had shown her something different. Not just skill, but heart. Her joking promise echoed in her ears. If you fix this engine, I'll marry you. Everyone was staring. Some were even whispering. For the first time in her life, Victoria Hale, the untouchable CEO, felt flustered. She managed a smile, one that wasn't rehearsed or cold. Well, Daniel, it seems I owe you more than a thank you. Over the next weeks, she found excuses to call him back, to look at this machine, to check that engine again, always pretending it was business. But the truth was, she wanted to see him, his calm presence, his unshakable honesty, his ability to make her laugh without even trying. Slowly, the walls she had built around herself began to crack, and one evening, as they stood together in the same garage where he worked, she looked at him and whispered, "You know, I wasn't joking that day." Daniel blinked. About what? She smiled. About marrying the man who could fix what no one else could. This time, it wasn't the engine she was talking about. From that day forward, Victoria found herself thinking about Daniel far more than she should have. She was used to being surrounded by polished executives in suits, men and women who spoke in rehearsed tones and bowed to her authority. But Daniel was different. He didn't care that she was a billionaire. He didn't care that she was feared. In the boardroom, he treated her like a person, not an empire. Whenever she called him to check on the prototype, he arrived with the same calm humility, his hands stained with oil, his shirt worn from long hours of labor. But every time, he carried with him a quiet strength that unsettled her heart. Daniel's story. Victoria began to learn more about him. Daniel was a widower. His wife had passed away 5 years earlier, leaving him alone with a little girl named Emily. Emily was 8 now, with bright eyes and a sharp tongue. She loved helping her dad at the garage, handing him wrenches and pretending she was his assistant. But money was tight, and Daniel often worked late into the night, just to keep food on the table. Despite his struggles, he never complained. His world was simple, but it was built on love, honesty, and resilience. And for a woman like Victoria, whose life was filled with backstabbing board members, shallow suitors, and empty penthouses, that simplicity felt like a breath of air after years of suffocating. The growing connection. One evening, Victoria surprised Daniel by visiting his small garage, dressed not in her designer suits, but in jeans and a leather jacket. Emily was there, sitting on a stool with a sketch pad, drawing cars. Victoria crouched beside her. "That's a beautiful design," she said warmly. Emily grinned. "Dad says one day I can build a car myself. He says I'm smarter than half the engineers at Hale Motors." Victoria laughed, and for the first time in a long time, it wasn't forced. She looked up at Daniel, who was watching from across the room. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. The conflict, but not everyone approved. Inside Hale Motors, whispers began spreading. Board members grew suspicious of their powerful CEO's sudden interest in a humble mechanic. Rival executives sneered, questioning her judgment. Some even threatened to leak the scandal to the media. The mighty Victoria Hale, entangled with a man far beneath her station. One night, her most trusted advisor confronted her. "Victoria, you can't risk everything you've built for him. Your image, the company's reputation, it would all come crashing down." For the first time in years, Victoria felt cornered. She had built Hale Motors, with blood, sweat, and iron will. Could she really risk it, all for love? The next morning, she met Daniel at his garage. He was wiping grease off his hands, smiling when he saw her, but his smile faded quickly when he noticed her troubled expression. "What's wrong?" he asked gently. She hesitated. For a woman who commanded boardrooms, who made billion-dollar deals without blinking, the words stuck in her throat. "Finally," she whispered, "they want me to end this. Whatever this is between us." Daniel was silent for a long moment. His jaw tightened, but his voice was steady. Victoria, I can't give you what they can. I don't have power, or money, or fancy titles. All I have is me and my daughter. If that's not enough, he swallowed, then maybe they're right. Victoria's heart ached. For the first time, she realized the weight of her own promise. If you fix this engine, I'll marry you. He had fixed more than her car. He had fixed her loneliness. He had fixed her heart. And now, she had to decide, her empire or him.